Hi, and welcome to this Weekday Word. One of the Psalms appointed in the daily office today is Psalm 19, which, just as a slight tidbit, was C.S. Lewis' favorite psalm. An Old Testament professor of mine in seminary once remarked that there were two things that God's people never ceased to marvel at: His creation and His law. His creation shines forth the beauty and the power of who He is, and His law shows us who He is in character and how we are to be like Him. And that's what we see going on in Psalm 19. It begins by saying, "The heavens declare the glory of the Lord." As we look at creation, we see that God is beautiful, God is powerful, God is creative, and God makes things that are wondrous and intricate and amazing. And so as we look at creation, it should lead us to marvel in just how incredible our God is. But in seeing how incredible He is, it is His word and His law that tell us what He is like, that He's holy, that He's just, that He's merciful, that He's loving, that He's kind, that He's steadfast and faithful. God's law does not so much give us a set of rules as it explains God's character, and we are to be like God. And so Psalm 19 begins by saying the heavens declare the glory of the Lord, but then it shifts to say that His law is better than much fine gold and sweeter than honey dripping from the honeycomb. When we consider God's creation and when we consider God's word revealing who He is, it should lead us very quickly to the same conclusion as the psalmist. Who can tell how often he offends? We come to see in ourselves that we don't deserve this beauty or this mercy or this majesty. We are not what we should be. We are not like God. We take for granted His many good gifts to us. And so the psalm then shifts to asking for God to reveal where we need to change so that we can be more like Him. And in that it ends by saying, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer." The words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart. In other words, what's going on inside of me and what's going on outside of me. May they be acceptable in the sight of the Lord. The psalm holds together the tension in which we live. We seek to be pleasing to the Lord, but we have to pray for His grace in order to do it. And so even in the Old Testament, in this 19th Psalm, we see that we are to walk in God's strength so that we can live the life that He calls us to live. So friends, I pray that today that you enjoy the beauty of God's creation and in it behold His creative majesty and power. And then in His word, behold His infinite and unstoppable and holy love for you. And then, with the psalmist, simply pray, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight." Help my life to be pleasing to you, O Lord. I pray that you are blessed this day, and I look forward to seeing you soon.